progress. There we go. So welcome this evening to Somerset Bus Partnerships meeting in Chard. Very conscious of the work that you've been doing, particularly on bus shelters. In fact, a bit later on, you'll see a slide we have of you cleaning bus shelters in Chard. So we know that buses are important. I've had that reconfirmed just now by Tim. So what I'd like to do is run through fairly quickly, because some of you may have seen many of these slides, just a quick update on where things are in Somerset. So I'm going to share my screen. Try again, I think. There we are, the beginning of the presentation rather than at the end. Okay, so my name is Peter Travis. I'm one of the 4 co-chairs of Somerset Bus Partnership. Somerset Bus Partnership was actually started by our co-chair in South Somerset, Tony Rees. At the moment, Tony is not particularly well, so he's not as active as he was. And each of our districts has got a co-chair. I'm actually responsible for Mendip. So I know an awful lot about Mendip buses, not so much about South Somerset buses. So some history on the Somerset Bus Partnership. It was Boris Johnson's Bus Back Better that prompted us to form some 15, 16 months ago, because we saw the opportunity that the funding, which at the time was being allocated to transforming bus services across England, money we thought would come to Somerset, and we wanted to provide a Somerset-wide voice to contribute to the formulation of the policy at Somerset. So we work with parishes and town councils across Somerset. We've got about 130 local representatives or bus champions in lots of the villages and in the towns across Somerset. We've got a pretty active Facebook page, and we're very active on Facebook. We have a website. We talk a lot. We get ourselves onto the radio and into the media. And Tony and I are the chair and vice chair of Somerset County Council's Bus Users and Stakeholders Group, which was a body to consult with the wider community that Somerset County Council was obliged to set up as part of Bus Back Better. So we encourage and we support bus user groups being set up across Somerset. And I'm a member of the Frome and Villagers one, FabBug, which has been going now for some 6 or 7 years. We've now seen in the last month a new one set up in Yeovil, one in Bridgewater, one in Wells, and one in Taunton. I'm going to be talking to Shepton, Mallet, and Glastonbury later in the week. And tonight, we'd be delighted if you make the decision, as I think probably is your intention, to formally set up a bus user group in Chard. So it all started with Bus Back Better. And when we started to look at the state of things in Somerset, we thought they were bad. We didn't realize they were quite that bad until we looked at the detail. And bus journeys per head in Somerset just before the beginning of COVID, in the 10 years up to the start of COVID, had fallen by some 43%. And of course, since COVID has come, they've fallen by another 30%. So bus numbers over the dozen years that actually the last administration was in power in Somerset have fallen catastrophically, partly the result of COVID, partly the result of a lot of funding of buses, particularly evening and weekend buses. One of the things is that in the traditional mindset suggests people work 9 till 5, 5 days a week, but the reality is people often are working through weekends and often have to work late. So even though they may be able to get a bus to work, if they can't get a bus back from work in the evening, they're not going to be able to travel to work by bus. They're going to have to do it by car or by some other means. And so the curtailing of any funding for evening and weekend services has had a very serious impact on bus journeys across Europe, across Somerset. What Somerset County Council told us in impressive honesty, they have access to a study which is done of all the local transport authorities across England, and Somerset actually has the worst rated bus services in the whole country. That's by people who use the buses. And we have the second lowest bus journeys per head. So a pretty poor start, which meant that the transformation funding from the government offered us a really great opportunity to do something about our bus services. Oh, and over and above all of that, which makes doing something about buses so important, is nearly half of the carbon emissions in Somerset come from transport. That is an unusually high proportion of carbon emissions which are the result of transport. So yet another very strong reason for Somerset benefiting from this transformation of funding. And Somerset have produced, or they produced now some 9 months ago, 10 months ago, their bus service improvement plan, something that gets called a BSIP. And they submitted this to the Department for Transport. It's an excellent document, 188 pages of really useful information. And they asked for and said they needed £163 million to improve bus services in Somerset. Now, this was a county which was spending round about £4 million on supporting bus services, and they asked for £163 million to sort out the deficit that Somerset's bus services were in terms of the quality of service, the frequency of service, the number of services they offered. And if you read that BSIP, I don't think anybody on this call would have much to argue against it. It's a very sound analysis with some really good plans for improving buses across Somerset. Only problem is that the government reduced the available funding from 3 billion to just over 1 billion. They had to use the rest to support buses during COVID. In the rail industry, they also had to support the rail industry during COVID to a vastly greater extent, but they didn't steal that money from the rail budget, but they did steal £2 million from the bus transformation budget. So there are something like 170 local transport authorities, all put in very ambitious bids. Ours was for 163 million. And they gave us 11.9 million. Now, if you lived in Dorset or in Wiltshire, you'd say, wow, that's well done, because those counties didn't get any. But 11.9 was only 7% of what was needed to sort out our bus services in Somerset. So we've got that money. Most of it was structured by the Department for Transport to go on bus priority lanes. And so most of it will be spent and focused in Taunton. We don't have a lot of choice about that. We've debated this with the officers in Somerset, and we accept the logic that it should be focused in Taunton, because firstly, that's where the bus priority is most needed. But if we can show on the Taunton case that money spent in Somerset will be spent very effectively, then it gives us a platform in Somerset to ask for some more of the funding, which we hope will come in under forthcoming prime ministers. We've yet to hear either of the current candidates say much about buses so far. So, as I say, most of the funding is going to go in Taunton. It's going to go on improving the bus services in Taunton. So that was all happening just ahead of the county council elections. And so, as all the political parties put out manifestos, we decided that the Somerset Bus Partnership should also put out an election manifesto. Ours was a bus manifesto, and we sent this to, we think, virtually every candidate who was standing in the election and asked them to support it. And in truth and in fairness, very few of them found anything they could object to. Potentially, the biggest issue was this one here, asking for Somerset to increase the amount of money they spend on buses to the average of other local transport authorities in the area. And if you look at where Somerset sits, we're the blue line. And so the commitment in that manifesto is to get our spend from £5.77 per head up to £9.30. That's a 40% increase, which is a big increase. But what is good is that 2/3 of the newly elected county councillors elected in May have endorsed that manifesto. So there's a real platform for Somerset County Council to spend some more of its own money during the term of this council to improve buses in Somerset. Now, it's very easy to attack bus operators, particularly when they announce the cutting of a particular route. But we do need to firstly recognise the huge challenges they're facing and to try and work with them to mitigate any cuts that they choose to make. Bus operators are private companies only in buses to make money. And if they can't make money, then they are not going to run a bus route. The challenge they've faced is that since COVID, we've seen a 30% drop in bus numbers. We've also seen different usage patterns. So the rush hour bus services are not as heavily used because some different types of people are being able to work more often in the week from home, probably not every day, but 1 or 2 or 3 days a week. That's affected rush hour traffic, which is the most profitable bus services for bus operators to run because everybody's paying full fares at that time. They've had, aggravated by Brexit, a huge driver shortage with HGV drivers in very short supply, and they come unpoached by offering better terms and conditions a lot of bus drivers. And we're actually seeing bus routes being withdrawn, not because of costs, but because the bus companies can't actually get the drivers. That's happening in Frome, and it's happening in the West of England First Bus as well. And if that wasn't enough, the price of diesel, much as we might like them to be running battery buses, but the price of which cost about £250,000 each, the price of diesel has just gone through the roof. So a perfect storm for bus operators. And that does mean that we are going to see certainly the threat and the reality of more bus cuts. And so far, we've seen bus cuts in Taunton, Bridgewater, Wells, and Yeovil. I'm not sure how that might have impacted on Chard. It's chiefly been buses of Somerset which have withdrawn services, most significantly possibly in Yeovil. Also, Southwest Coaches have had some more limited reductions in services, but buses of Somerset quite significant cuts, which have really emphasized the social impact of making a bus cut. It's not just an accountancy issue. It really is the social and welfare impact of loss of a bus, let alone the environmental impact. And there's every indication, and in fact, the people in Wales have already been forewarned of this, but it's going to happen elsewhere, of more cuts in October, because at the beginning of October, the Bus Recovery Fund, which is the government funding of many bus services, majority of bus services across the country, is ending. And that's going to almost certainly herald quite severe bus cuts right across the country, including bus cuts down here in Somerset. So, campaigning. Tim and I talked about it briefly at the very beginning of the meeting. It needs leaders, doesn't need a lot of them. This is one lady who's become a world star and an exemplar for the rest of all humanity, I think. In Frome, we have our own bus lady who set up the Frome and Villages Bus User Group and is still campaigning. In fact, we were talking to her only today about the bus stall and the Capture Bus event we're going to have in Frome. Traditionally, campaigning was done in meetings, and that's beginning to happen some more. But COVID has changed a lot of things, and so has technology. And certainly from the standpoint of the Somerset Bus Partnership, it makes it much easier to set up district-wide or county-wide or even town meetings using Zoom. So we have most of those meetings by Zoom, but I do get invited to go along and talk to various, particularly town councils, as well as my own parish council, about bus issues. And so because of technology, we do encourage all our members to be keyboard warriors, to post on social media. Facebook is such a brilliant platform. Yes, it can be abused and people can be abused by Facebook, but you can reach communities in a remarkable way, and each one of us can do it just on a computer. And I mean, in my village, we've got a village Facebook which has got nearly 3,000 followers, a bit bigger than our own actual village. We've only got 1,200 people in the village, but there's a much larger group who's interested in it. And I know if I put a post up there, it will be seen the day it goes up by some 1,500 people. And that's a remarkable reach, and it will build. And posts on Somerset Catch the Bus campaign Facebook page have reached 25,000 people in the past month. So these are really significant numbers. And yes, the web is there. You can put a lot of information up on the web. Twitter, probably not ideal for bus users unless you want to reach the government and MPs and politicians, and they watch what is put on Twitter very carefully, and they are an important target, most especially trying to galvanise our own local MPs to battle on buses on our behalf. BBC Radio Somerset, we had features again this week. In fact, it dominated BBC Radio Somerset, the issue of buses and bus user groups on Monday, and we're hoping to get on BBC Points West very shortly about buses. But of course, there are still local newspapers. Most of them are desperate to find original content, and I've always found local newspapers, whether it's a paid for or a free sheet, really interested in bus user issues. And it was interesting, I was talking to BBC Radio Somerset after the programme on Monday when they did a big feature on buses, and they were really surprised at the number of listeners who phoned in about bus services when we were talking about threats to bus services and our bus user groups. And it just shows what an important issue it is for a lot of people in Somerset. So 3 more things I'm going to talk about, and then I will pipe down a bit, you'll be glad to hear. Infrastructure, the state of our bus shelters. This wasn't in Chard, and you can see why very shortly. This was actually down in Yeovil. It is not necessarily the worst, but a pretty bad example of, I mean, who'd want to go and stand under that? Whereas what you did in Chard, we've shown this in many places, has set an example. In fact, I know somebody was cleaning a bus shelter in Frome today as a consequence of the example that you set. This is a great example. It shows community action, and our bus shelters ought to be in better condition. People have to sit and stand in them. In Bus Back Better, it said, bus infrastructure is an important reflection of the quality image of going by buses. And if they were like the one that we saw in Yeovil, that's a very poor image. After the cleanup in Chard, it's a much better image. So how do we get more people onto buses? Well, the most basic thing in the world about buses is people aren't going to go on a bus, certainly in the country, unless they know the time of the bus. Our buses don't run with the frequency that you might get in London. Our buses might come every 20 minutes, every half hour, every 2 hours. So you really do need to know the times of buses. Yet, the reality is lots of bus stops don't have a bus timetable, and even worse, and it is even worse, many of those timetables which are up are out of date and so are misleading. I keep on telling people to report any bus time which is out of date to the Advertising Authority, because it is Advertising Standards Authority. It is misleading advertising. And then a lot of bus users don't have access to the internet, or can't use the internet as adroitly as some of us might be able to. And even on the internet, there are bus timetables which have been left up there by the bus operators, and they're out of date. So it's sometimes quite difficult, particularly in the north of Somerset, where I live, to know which is the up-to-date online timetable. It really is uniquely bad of the bus industry that they fail to treat their loyal customers better than this. And bus cuts were being made in Yeovil, and people were asking the bus driver, what does this mean? Have you got a timetable of the new bus services? No, he said, they haven't printed any. And it took them 2 weeks before they put the new bus timetable up, showing the fact that some of the bus stops and shelters weren't being serviced by buses. People were turning up in Yeovil on the day of the bus cuts, standing in shelters which no longer had a bus service since previous day. And how can bus operators so badly market their product? I have a lot of sympathy with bus operators, particularly at the moment, but they're just not giving the priority they should to making sure people know when their buses go. And that is very bad marketing. Well, it's not marketing, it's a total abject failure in marketing. So, and I'm sure there'll be people on this meeting who are prepared to pick up the cudgels on this issue. We have to try and compensate and do some of the marketing job for the bus operators. So in my village, we produce our own bus timetable. It shows when our buses go to neighbouring towns and at what time you can get the buses back from those neighbouring towns. We don't have a lot of bus services, but to each of the towns, but we do have some bus services, and that way people can know about them. What we do, our parish councillors, I'm one of them, we go and we deliver this bus timetable. It costs about £150 to print about 1,000 copies, and we deliver it to every house in the village. We deliver it to the local pubs, to the local shop, and we just have some spare copies as well. And we put it up on the bus shelters and on the bus stops as well. That's one thing that can be done. You need a parish council or a town council prepared to find the money. It's not a lot of money out of their annual budgets, but it does cost them money. The other thing a bus campaigner can do is print off the local timetable, up-to-date timetable, and go and stick it up on the bus stop if the bus operator hasn't got an up-to-date bus timetable at the bus stop. And the other things we do is we hold bus stalls. This is in Frome. We've been doing this for years. We go along and we get a small table and we stand right in the middle of Frome's marketplace. And it astonishes me how many people come up. Often they use a particular bus service, but then they had no idea of all the other bus services that are available from Frome. And so we give lots of bus timetables away, and we persuade people of the availability of buses and the need to support those buses. You might have noticed the Catch the Bus Week hands. We've got some of these, and the next Catch the Bus month is in fact September, and we very much hope that Chard will hold a Catch the Bus month during the month of September. We can supply you with a small number of those green hands, and perhaps you invite your MP along to get on the bus. We don't see so much of our MPs as we used to. COVID has made a bit of an impact on that. But we do need to get our MPs campaigning for buses. So see if you can get them involved in coming on a bus in Chard, or coming down just to talk to you about buses in Chard, and talk to your county councillors. County councillors, particularly with this new administration, particularly as the 2/3 of the county councillors are in favour of spending more on buses. They want to see our bus services at least maintained, ideally improved, but at least maintained. The Somerset County Council doesn't want to see bus cuts. So if there are threats of bus cuts in your area, get your county councillors involved campaigning on your behalf. And here are some local councillors, town councillors in Frome during the last Catch the Bus week, campaigning forcibly for better buses for Frome. So get your town councillors, your parish councillors, your county councillors to ride on a bus in the month of September. Many of them will have cars. Many of them could take some journeys. We're not asking them to abandon their cars. We're just saying, when you can, to bus it. And that's going to be the message in September. It's also going to be the message of a Somerset County Council bus campaign. They're going to launch a Bus It campaign in the next week to try and start to boost bus numbers during August. And then they're going to back our Catch the Bus campaign in September. Get your local council to put busing it on your council agenda. Let's get as many people as we can to talk about the importance of getting more people onto our buses, because that's the best way individuals can go to actually protect buses. As a group, we can form bus user groups, and in a wider sphere, we can use our influence through the Somerset Bus Partnership. So these are the dates where we've got so far lined up. Taunton opens it with their bus event on the 3rd. We're not saying you can only do it on one day, but we're focusing on the 3rd. Glastonbury and Wells the following week, and the following Saturday, Bridgewater, Yeovil, and my own village of Road. Frome would just move their date from the 15th to the 14th, the day of the market day in Frome. It'd be great if tonight you could think about where you might, which Saturday, if a Saturday is preferred, often it is, might be the best day in Chard if you choose to go ahead with one. So the Somerset Catch the Bus campaign, that's what we are going to be promoting in September. So I'll stop talking now and invite some comments, please. Tim, please.
Yeah, I'll start off and then give everybody a moment to have a think about what they want to say. I was jotting down in the chats as we're going along, so I didn't forget anything. So timetables, that'd be great if we were able to get PDFs. We've only got 5 bus shelters in Chard, but we do have a lot of other areas where we could get these timetables up. But I think between us, we could probably get a load printed off, laminated, and that would really help with the promotion. I mean, there's quite a few of us here that have got computer capability or printers or laminators. So between us, we could cover that base quite quickly. Also, I'd like it if we could get some materials from you, Peter, and definitely have a day of it. I don't know what everybody thinks. Maybe the 16th of September, or if anybody else. I'll defer to Serena in a second. And then, yeah, I'd love it if we got something really, really buzzing and really exciting to happen on a Saturday. We get enough of us to cover as many areas as possible and really raise the profile of buses in our community. Over to you, Serena.
Well, I was just looking at dates, so it depends whether or not you want to choose, because that 17th is a really busy week, so it's Heritage Action Zone that time, but that might not be a reason to not do it, as in there's a lot of people around and in Chard. The previous Saturday is the 10th, which is the Chard Carnival Fair, street fair. So again, a lot of people are in Chard. So are we talking about doing a bus journey around Chard or to somewhere?
I mean,
anyone?
Our experience in Frome is to have a stall, but yeah, you do whatever you see fit. Yeah.
Well, we can ask for a stall to be at the Carnival Street Fair, because they are asking for tables, and we would have to pay. But Or, I mean, I know that there are other tables around, so we could maybe steal a corner of somebody else's table.
Or if we don't have a table at the street fair, we could always use the front of the hub,
Yeah. Well,
which is right
that's if
up
the hub's
close to the
okay.
street fair.
That would have to go to the steering committee, wouldn't it, of the hub? But I mean, ultimately, if the hub supported it, which quite a few of us on the steering group are here tonight, if we did support that, then something could be on the main high street in Chard all the time about this, because the hub is, I don't know if Peter knows, but the hub is right in the centre. It's right on the main street. It's opposite Superdrug, just up from the Guildhall. So, you know, a pair of hands and some information would catch the eye for sure.
We are printing literature this month, talking about the issues of buses in Somerset. So we could certainly supply you with some leaflets and a couple of sets of hands, I think.
So in terms, I think the timetable issue is a really important one, Peter. Just cleaning 2 bus stops just the other day. One of them didn't have any information at all on, not a single timetable, and the other had what had been obviously a quickly copied, a huge A4 piece of paper with a tiny bit of information in the middle, with some official looking bus logos tape either side. Well, the tiniest bit of water meant that was done. So that, you know, it's, and there was no date on that either, so who knows whether that was actually accurate. But I think if people were to know what the times were and believed that the times were accurate because they were being monitored, which is probably quite a job, but I think it would be used more. I think that alone would up the percentage of bus users, because they'd feel quite confident that they went to a bus stop, they would actually be able to use it.
Can I also say that actually there's 5 bus shelters in Chard, but only 4 of them are on bus routes. The one up at Crimchard is not on a bus route.
That used to be with 99, wasn't it?
Yeah, and several
It was the
members of
99.
public, yeah, several members of public did talk to us when we were doing that one and said they used to use that bus.
For 99, yeah, 99 bus.
Yeah, and you talked about that, Banner, as well.
Yeah, I used to use the 99 all the time. But it used to really good. It was cheaper than first. It was a quicker service. It was a cleaner service. It was more reliable. But now I'm not sure if the 99 still goes and who runs it.
It does go, but I think it goes to Richard Hewish. My husband was one of the driver, actually, the 99 bus, and it went all the way to Musgrove. And absolutely lovely service. We were gutted when that actually depot closed in 99. You know, the stagecoach.
Ironically, Kath, that was the one that had the timetable printed, but just on a
yeah, the old one, yes.
Yeah.
But Kevin has just given me this timetable. That's for Taunton, Bridgewater, Yeovil, and West Somerset. So he said he can bring boxes of this one if you want to put it on the stall. So
That's
that
great.
will be available from Yeovil. He can bring it from Yeovil. So
great.
May I say something, please?
Yeah, please do.
please.
I live in Winsham, which is about 4 miles out of Chard. When we first moved to the village some 15 years ago, one of the reasons we moved here was because of the excellent bus service. And it was the 99, which has just been mentioned. It ran from Yeovil through Crewkerne, Winsham, Chard, Coombe St Nicholas to Taunton, and right through to Musgrove Park Hospital. So it was ideal for people going to work, to visiting patients in the hospital, going to appointments at the hospital, and it was an hourly service. And then the first change they made was to change it to a 2-hourly service. Well, we could cope with that, but then the last reorganization, they split the route into 2 and have two separate operators running the two routes, so they just don't tie up. There's the service that runs from Yeovil to Chard, which is the 96. And then if you want to go to Taunton, you have to change, obviously, onto the 99. And depending on when you arrive, you might have to wait 54 minutes or an hour and 24 minutes. I mean, it's just not usable. And if you want to return from Taunton back to the village, it is absolutely impossible, because in the afternoon, there's a gap of about 3.5 hours when there's no bus runs through the village at all. So if you arrive in Chard to come back to Winsham, if you miss the 2:20, you've got to wait till 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So obviously people who work in Taunton can't use the bus service for going to work. People can't use it to go shopping in Taunton, to go to the hospital. So I'm going to do my utmost to get people to use the bus, and I'm planning to have a stall. It'll be a smaller one, but in our village coffee morning, in the church coffee morning, and I'll do my utmost, but basically the service just doesn't work.
And that, Tim, yes, please.
Yeah, as Brian's saying, if a service isn't working, it's going to be really difficult. But I suppose it's chicken and egg scenario. We need people to use whatever service there is. But I mean, if they've been stuck in town for 3.5 hours, I mean that's terrible. You're just kicking your heels, or just having to drink coffee until it's time to go home. But I guess we're just going to have to plan this as best we can. I mean, in Chard, if we're able to do, as Serena was saying, we're having as long as it's cleared with the hub, if they can have a display there, which is out there for a month or so, it really is going to be a great focal point. And then we also do something maybe in the bus shelters we've got. If we print off some of the posters, encouraging people to, we're getting on board for September, and as many of us as well. I know I'll be looking at Dave Bulmer, who's a district councillor, to jump on a bus and get a picture of him on the bus, and if we can do the same with some of the other ones. Banner as well, if we get a picture of her on the bus, and the more of us are doing it, hopefully encourage other people to use whatever buses we have got and try to apply pressure to give us more, so it's a bit more usable.
Well, I'm putting a piece in the parish magazine. We have a weekly e-letter which reaches quite a large percentage of the population. I'm going to put something on that as well. I'll put something on Facebook and encourage people to use whatever bus service we have, but it needs to improve.
Yeah. Parish magazines, they sound slightly dated, but they still have a significant penetration of village populations, and they're highly regarded. So we've encouraged the use of parish magazines. We certainly use them locally, but we've sent press releases out to parish magazines around the county, and we've had good responses. So parish magazines are useful.
Would you believe our parish magazine actually has a copy of the bus timetable?
Excellent as well. Really good. Yes. So will you form a bus user group in Chard? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we will, Peter. Is that as a group, or would you be looking at a single person to oversee it? Somebody who maybe his husband works for the bus service, or?
Well, I noticed you did put a thumbs up at the suggestion. From our point of view, it would be good to have 2 or 3 people as contacts, just so that we know there's some depth, but it would be your organization, so you would decide. But it's politically good to have a bus user group, because it's not linked to any particular party, and so it allows freedom to make statements without it sounding as if it's a party trying to take advantage. I'm not saying that a party would, but buses can sometimes get into the political arena. So a bus user group, I think, would be really good if there's a willingness to establish it.
Okay then, Peter, I'll cut to the chase then and ask everybody who's here watching now as part of Zoom. Does anybody want to be part of the duo or 3 people to cover this and get it up and running?
Yeah, Tim, yes, I haven't said anything yet. Obviously, I'm fairly busy with other stuff anyway, particularly work. I'm more than happy to actually, participate in this. But the limit of my involvement is could be quite difficult at times because under pressure from other quarters at the moment.
I think 2-3 people is a good idea. Maybe 3 people is.
Does it have to be people that are here now? Because
No.
I'm not going to commit to anything else at the moment with other projects that are going on. But it could be that if people know somebody that may not want to be involved in this type of meeting, who would help them outside of the meeting.
That's a good idea.
All of us that are here at the moment, apart from Brian, because obviously I don't know Brian, are all pretty busy people.
Yes.
And I think if we, especially Serena, and I'm going to say for Serena, but if we take on one more thing, I think that's just going to be the final straw that breaks our back, because we're so busy.
I was going to say I
I'm
can help, but not until November or December time.
This is it.
Which is too late for the September thing.
But I'm
I'm
willing to help,
okay.
but I can't take on more responsibility.
Yeah, and I very much want to help. Obviously, Tim knows that I'm very passionate about it, and I'm starting a new job, and I'll be doing the Saturday bus journey, because Monday to Friday I'll be working. So unfortunately, the bus route, there's no bus that goes to my workplace, so that's a shame. So, but I have to do the bus journey on Saturday or Sunday just to support, and
There isn't a bus on Sunday.
No,
You can only do it on a Saturday.
Saturday, only Saturday, Kat.
Unless you're in Taunton.
Unless we are in Taunton, yeah, of course. But yeah, so just the Saturday one we can do. We can do the Saturday one.
Should we agree then, as a minimum tonight, maybe to do a table or to do something at the hub and to do a bus journey on a particular day? That kind of feels like that's possibly a bit more within our power at the moment.
Yes.
I don't know if somebody's got capacity just to sort of open up a Facebook page, but I really don't want Mr. Tim Eggins to say yes to that, as I think he's running about 16 at the moment. And if you leave it to me, it will fail. So just because
somebody guide me, I can open that page if with guidance.
Yeah,
I haven't done it before.
Yeah, if we can
Anna,
help you to do it,
yes,
it'd be good.
Anna, I'm just going to throw a spanner in the works for you now.
Go on.
Okay. And I haven't spoken to anybody else about it. And this is what I do. Your husband's listening to this meeting because I've heard his comments. Would he be willing to support you in the background in setting something up?
The Facebook page.
Facebook page, the do, whatever, because he's got insider information.
He's very happy to, Kevin. He's coming, the boss is coming himself, so he can.
Sorry, but I do this all the time. I volunteer people for roles. I'm dreadfully sorry.
Believe me, I'm all for encouraging people to get on the buses, because we have seen the numbers drop, obviously, during COVID. And a lot of the elderly people that basically didn't journey on a bus for a year or more, see them returning. So it's nice to see people slowly coming back on the buses. I worked for First, so I can't say anything detrimental about them, obviously. But yeah, there are lots of changes. to the bus services.
Big times.
Like you said, it's a private company, so they've got to look at their numbers at the end of the day.
But I don't think anything that was said today or tonight was detrimental against any particular company.
No.
We're talking about
we
funding, aren't
want
we?
to try and see more people getting on the buses, obviously. And if those numbers did increase, then the regularity of the services, like Brian was saying about the old stagecoach that we used to go through Winsham every hour. Yeah, we had 4 buses on the go all the time, running from Yeovil, like you said, all the way through to Taunton, and it was connected. I've been on to my bosses saying, wouldn't it be lovely if we ran all the way through to Taunton? So who knows, when the contract for the Yeovil side of it, that would be wonderful if First could join up with the 99 and the 30.
Yeah. Well, my question was, would you in the background not be the face of, willing to work with Banner in the background to set up a Facebook page and just sort of see how the public feeling?
She knows more about technology than I do.
Oh, okay.
Cameron doesn't go near Facebook.
I'm very happy to provide boxes of timetables and stuff. Out of interest, does anyone know whether the tourist information in Chard has got any timetables? Because we always used to provide.
They used to
provide boxes of.
Yeah, there used to be an electronic thing in there as well that you could go in and find out bus information. But as far as I know now, they go on the website and get the times.
Also, could you remember there was a big discussion prior to May about them being all over the door. So actually they put them on an A-frame. They put all the bus times on an A-frame outside the reception door. So not the main big glass doors, but just to the side, which was the tourist information originally.
Right, okay.
Interesting to have a look, see what's there. That would be up to our councillors, Dave Bulmer, Banner and Tim.
Yeah.
Follow that one up.
Yeah,
so, certainly in Yeovil, in the Yeovil depot, you can, if you're a bus user, you can just go into the office and request a copy or two of the timetables, which, as Banner said, covers Taunton, well, the whole of Somerset. So you can plan. I mean, in Yeovil, some mornings we get people jumping on a bus in, say, Abbey Manor, asking for a through ticket to Minehead. And they'll go all the way through for a day out, all the way across the county.
We should do that one.
And then get on the Exmoor tour, is it?
Yes.
There's a wonderful open top bus goes to Linton.
Yeah.
Wow. Exmoor coaster. There it is.
Thank you, Exmoor coaster. Yeah.
But like
it's
Serena
a
said,
fantastic journey.
If you go the other way,
today.
if you go the other way to Axminster, you can get on the Jurassic Coast bus.
Yeah.
We did that one. We did actually that one as a family. We did as all the way to Dorchester, Weymouth actually.
Weymouth.
We went all the way to Weymouth. It's brilliant, really brilliant.
Tim.
About your original question then, Peter, about setting up a group. I think what we can do, Banner's really keen, obviously, as you're aware, on buses, and sounds like she's willing to give it a go as long as she's got support and we get some other people. So I'll discuss with a group of people in the background and find a couple of other people to help Banner operate this Facebook page for the Chard user group, which will incorporate obviously Winsham and then stretch out to Crewkerne. I promise I won't get involved, Serena, because obviously I'm plate spinning frantically, but we'll be giving them support in the background. And I think it'd be really good because it's a great information point. So we can obviously do a display in the hub if we're doing something in some of the bus shelters or having a store. It really can focus people's minds, saying these are the dates, this is what's happening, and then we can link up with what obviously the umbrella, you know, Somerset Bus Partnership is, and we can actually pull stuff from there as well. So it shouldn't be too onerous, really. It's just covering that page, answering information, sharing some timetables, and telling people what we're going to do to try and promote that bus service. And if there is obviously then, I think as Banner's husband was saying, if we can show there's a direct correlation between our activity and bus use, they say, oh my God, Chard and Winsham and Crooken, they've really kicked into gear, more people are using it, and hopefully we can twist people's arms and say, can we have a few more buses now then, please?
Absolutely.
So yeah, if you leave it with us, Peter, I'll discuss it with Banner later on, and I'll see who else we can get to support that, because it isn't such a massive task. It's not like we're actually asking Banner to go out and actually drive the buses herself or or anything like that. So
I will definitely not agree to that one. So no.
You got a good trainer.
Why not? Women can do everything.
I don't think
days.
I can do everything apart from driving the
Of course
bus.
you can.
Perhaps we should have a women's football team in Chard as well.
Yes,
Yeah, there
exactly.
you are.
Yeah, and I can't play football either. I
Yeah,
can play
we've got a
cricket.
pretty good women's football team, actually.
Yeah,
Have
we can play cricket. Cricket team.
Tim,
Just one query. Have you, we may already have most of your email addresses. Be really helpful if you could just put your email addresses in the chat, just to make sure we've got them.
Yeah, I did copy. I have been copying people in on our chats, Peter, the email chain. So there were some people that wanted to come tonight that obviously didn't come. But what I'll do, you can either take it off that email, or if, as you say, if Dave and Kath and everybody wants to put their emails on into the chat, go for it.
All right, thanks, Dave.
And then obviously, if you're able to liaise with us, if you're able to get us anything, any literature out, any of the big green hands and so on, and I think we can work behind the scenes to try and make it really something quite exciting as well, but maybe a little bit beyond what some of the other towns have done, make it quite funky and interesting, and maybe get some of the local press involved as well. They come along and see what Chard are doing. We're kind of quite a special little town. It's really starting to get sort of people noticing us now. So it'd be great if we could really set the pace, so to speak.
Sounds as if you will be setting the pace. So that's great news, and thank you.
I don't know if it's appropriate for someone from Winsham to join the Chard group, but if it's felt that I could be of use, I'm willing to do that.
Yes, and Brian, I'm just below you in Forton, so I'm not far either.
Right.
So I'm just about a mile out. So definitely, and you know, I think also more people that are sharing posts on Facebook, that's how the algorithms work. So
Absolutely.
even if you're not putting the posts onto Facebook, just sharing them about and sharing information, it makes us stronger. You're sharing information in Winsham, I'll share it in Forton, people in Chard sharing in Chard, it all really helps. And actually probably most of the people using the buses aren't in Chard, or they might be going from Chard to Taunton, but I know there's a significant number coming from the outer villages into Chard using the buses. So it is really important to have you there, Brian. Is it possible today to maybe fix on a date for a journey? Is that even at all possible?
I've had a bit of an idea. I've had an idea about that.
Okay, go.
Because on Thursday, oh no, that's the wrong month. Thursday, the 15th of September, if some of the councillors could come from the hub on the 96 bus out of Chard to Winsham, they could come to our Jubilee Cafe for coffee and cake and our little stall, and they could then catch a bus back from Winsham to Chard.
What time is the coffee thing?
The coffee thing is sort of coffee time.
11's is.
But yes, but I mean, I have sort of quickly checked the bus times. There's a bus at 11, which gets to Winsham at 11:17. and that would be ideal for coffee. And then there's a bus back from Winsham at 12:09, gets into Chard at 12:26.
I have to give my apologies. Thursdays I am unavailable. I have to coordinate a multi-agency meeting from 9:15 to about 1 o'clock. So I'm not able to make that one.
And I'm working, unfortunately, which is such a shame.
But if we could get some councillors to come and get press involved, that might do us a bit of good.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I love it. I love that idea. That sounds
Coffee
fantastic.
and cake. I know, me too, but I'm working.
Bus journeys, cake, coffee, get to meet Brian. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe I need to retire early.
I don't know whether the buses from Road tie in with that.
Well, I was just tempted to come down, yes. I think I might struggle to get to Chard by bus, but I certainly would enjoy going from Chard to Winsham for coffee and cake.
There you go.
Okay. Well, I think this all sounds very positive, and it's been a really constructive session. Thank you very much. I now understand what Tim was saying about Chard is really being put on the map, and I think if it is, as you say, getting seen and put on the map, then it's because of people like you, because it's been great to listen to you, and you've been so constructive. So thanks a lot. Anything I can do or my colleagues can do, just let us know and keep us informed on what's happening. Please do.
Yeah, watch the space. You will be looking at the photograph with the big green hands. Catch the bus.
Thank you, Peter, for organising.
Thank you, Peter, for your presentation.
And
thank you very much. Bye-bye,
watch the
everyone.
space.
Yeah, watch the space. Bye.
Thank you. Bye,
everyone.
Bye.
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 Did you save the chat?